So today we have the pleasure of continuing our journey through Advent with joy. So we're in the third week of Advent. We are going to prepare our hearts to celebrate the birth of Jesus Christ. We've covered hope and we've covered love. And we find ourselves at joy. And I'll tell you a little confession. I find the joy one to be a real challenge. It can be a real struggle to find the joy in the season. And I've actually preached, the few times I've preached on joy before, and here I am preaching on it again. So clearly God thinks I haven't learned what I need from this lesson. So I'd just like to say that I hope that God is able to speak through me, and that the words that I say are His words, and that they touch hearts. So I think as we talk about joy, I'd like to start by defining what joy is. And we talk about this from time to time, and people can confuse the word joy with the word happy. Joy is not the same as happy. It's kind of like it's a kind of happy, a little bit. But when we're talking about biblical joy, we're talking about it resulting from knowing and serving God, and for determining to respond to life and to all of the challenges that we have with no matter what our circumstances are, with inner contentment and peace. All the words hope, love, joy, peace, they're all entangled together, of course. So when we're talking about joy, we're talking about a deliberate focus on being joyful, not just an emotion that we have when things go well. And I think it's important that we focus on joy, not just because it's in Advent, but because of how often the word joy is in the Bible. So depending on which version of the Bible you are following, the one that has the most versions of the word joy in it is the English, the ESV Bible, which has 430 versions of the word joy. And the word happy only appears 10 times. So there's a huge difference between joy and happy. And regardless of whether it's King James or it's the Christian Standard, the difference between joy and happiness is vast. So definitely a much larger focus in the Bible on joy than there is on happiness. So I think that since the Bible is putting such a fine point on what joy is and how to be joyful and feel joy, it makes sense that we need to get into it and understand what the Bible is saying about joy. So my reading today is going to be from the book of Psalms, and we're going to read Psalm 16, and then we're going to talk about how we might work with what's in here. Okay, so we're in Psalms 16, the whole thing. And I'll read it to you here. It starts, a miktam of David. Protect me, God, for I take refuge in you. I said to the Lord, you are my Lord. I have nothing good beside you. As for the holy people who are in the land, they are the noble ones. All my delight is in them. The sorrows of those who take another god for themselves will multiply. I will not pour out their drink offerings of blood, and I will not speak their names with my lips. Lord, you are my portion and my cup of blessing. You hold my future. The boundary lines have fallen for me in pleasant places. Indeed, I have a beautiful inheritance. I will bless the Lord who counsels me, even at night when my thoughts trouble me. I always let the Lord guide me, because He is at my right hand. I will not be shaken. Therefore, my heart is glad and my whole being rejoices. My body also rests securely, for you will not abandon me to Sheol. You will not allow your faithful one to see decay. You reveal the path of life to me. In your presence is abundant joy. At your right hand are eternal pleasures. So, first of all, I know I bring you on these brain journeys of mine when I'm up here, but the first thing I think is, okay, what's a miktam, right? So at the beginning of many of the Psalms, we have either directions to acquire a choral director, or it says a Psalm of David, which is loosely translated as a song or perhaps a poem. But a miktam is something different. And when you do the research, there weren't enough historical connection points to the word miktam to really know exactly what it means. But it's clearly different than a song, different than a poem. It's not part of a choral director. So it's possible that miktam is words that are a carving. So a miktam of David could have been something that was written out, that was carved in a piece of furniture or a tablet. And that could have, and if that's the definition, if that's what it was, then it may not have been written by David. David is generally given credit for writing it because there's not any reason to think that he didn't. But it could have been something that he possessed that had this on it. Regardless of what a miktam is, and just for the record, when you go to see how to pronounce miktam, they don't even agree on how to pronounce it. So maybe it's miktam, maybe it's miktam. So that's clearly is unknown. But I think the fact that it's pointed out here as a miktam and different than what the other psalms say that we should pay attention to it, that it's been singled out and that it's important. So with that, I just would like to go through here a little bit and talk through what I learned and what I'm seeing here. The first thing is he asks for protection. Protect me, God, for I take refuge in you. And it says, I say to the Lord, you are my Lord, I have nothing good besides you. Okay, so he's focusing on God, looking at God, acknowledging that God is the one who has the power and the protection. And then he goes on to give credit to those who try to teach the word, right? As for the holy people who are in the land, they're the noble ones, all my delight is in them. All right, so he's kind of nodding his head at the people who are trying to be holy and are trying to communicate God's message. And then I think it gets interesting in verse 4 when he says, the sorrows of those who take another god for themselves will multiply. I will not pour out their drink offerings of blood, and I will not speak their names with my lips. So we're talking about the sorrows of those who take another god. My pen keeps falling. And when I thought about that, and I think about idols and about the different things that are ways that we can take a god. And although maybe in the times when this was written, it could have been a carving or it could have been a statue of some kind, we have our own idols now. And our idols are a little bit different. And I'd like to give you a quote from Corrie ten Boom. You might be familiar with her. She was one of the people who tried to protect the Jewish people and hide them in the Netherlands during World War II when the Germans had taken possession of the country. And she says, if the devil can't make you sin, he'll make you busy. And if you think about the Christmas season, the way that we have it nowadays, my goodness, we are busy. Yes? I read my daughter's not feeling well, and I read her a story from an old fairy tale book that I have, and it was a Christmas story talking about a little girl who all she wanted for Christmas was a cake. And I think to myself, we have cake, we have feasts, we have lights, we have Christmas cards, we have all of this extra stuff as part of our Christmas. And for some of us who are busy, it can feel like it's just a whole extra level of to-do things on your to-do list, right? You've got to get the lights out, you've got to get the cards out, you've got to buy gifts for the teachers, you've got to and just fill in the blank. There are so many different things that we tie into the holiday season that it can be hard to find joy. So I think about Corrie ten Boom when I read this, and I think about how we are taking, other gods, and, I think about Santa Claus, and I think about, the poor parents who deal with the elf on the shelf concept, and how the elf moves around every day, and that whole extra level of busy that focus is there. And none of the things that we do are bad. I mean, putting up lights is great. I love the light displays, the trees, watching the holiday specials. I mean, it's all wonderful. But if it pulls your focus away from God, is it an idol? I don't know. I'm just asking myself these questions, but I feel bad. I feel bad for people who are so busy that they get wrapped up in the activities and don't have a chance to pause and really enjoy the season. So as I read through that, I did think of that, the sorrow of those who take another god for themselves, right? So just keep in mind, think about that a little bit. Is all of the puffery that we have around Christmas, is it taking away from Christmas, or is it adding to Christmas? Just think through that a little bit. I will bless the Lord who counsels me, even at night when my thoughts trouble me. I always let the Lord guide me, because he is at my right hand. I will not be shaken. God counsels us. There are so many of us, maybe your struggle at Christmas time is not with being too busy. Maybe your struggle is that you've lost somebody, and there's this big, wrenching wound that you're trying to deal with. Or perhaps you're taking care of people, and you really have to focus hard on taking care of people, and it's taking away some of the joy that you could have at the holiday season. But God will counsel you, even though your thoughts are troubling, and he will not let you be shaken. Therefore my heart is glad, and my whole being rejoices. My body also rests securely. For you will not abandon me to Sheol, so the land of the dead, right? Jesus has come. We are rescued. It's good news, and we need to keep that in mind too. And you reveal the path of life to me. In your presence is abundant joy. At your right hand are eternal pleasures. So revealing the path of life to me. We all have our own paths, and if you think about a life path maybe as being a hole on a golf course, the fairway is wide. There are all sorts of ways you can hit your ball through that fairway and still be on course and still do well on the hole. We've got God behind us. He's telling us this is the way, walk in it. We just need to be listening, but it's hard with the hurt, and it's hard with the busyness to take the time to focus the way that we need to on God and on Jesus Christ, especially at this time when we're supposed to be more focused and not less focused. So I would say to you that I would recommend that we do three things: stop, focus, and then celebrate and worship. And when I say stop, that could mean a whole bunch of different things to different people. It could mean stop the activity. It could mean pause your morning for a moment to be able to focus. It could mean finding a little, carving out a teeny bit of time for yourself over the course of a day to be able to focus and to worship. Or it could mean taking yourself off of autopilot. I find autopilot for a lot of people, either because we're busy going from task to task, or because the pain, there's so much pain with what we're dealing with that we just have to turn our emotions off for a little while. But I would recommend that we try to stop and then focus. And the focus area should be, of course, on God and on Jesus, especially this time of year. And I'd like to just show you a quick an example. Don't try this at home if you have balance issues, okay? But for focus, and sometimes maybe you've heard that there are some sports where a gymnast or a ice skater will have a point of focus, right? And how that helps them with their sport. So I'm going to close my eyes, and I'm going to put my hands down by my side, and I'm going to pick up one of my legs, and let's see what happens when I do that. Hold on, I'm trying. Hold on. Okay. So that wasn't acting. That's me trying to balance with my eyes closed. Now I'm going to look at the clock at the back of the room, and I'm going to focus. Again, I'm not going to just close my eyes. I'm going to focus on the clock. And I'm going to try to lift my leg again. Let's see how I do this time. Much better, right? Mm-hmm. So something about focusing really can close down all of the noise and all of the whirlwind of life that's around you. I know I talk about the whirlwind. I talk a little bit about those money machines, the ones that you stood in back in the 80s and the 90s. They look like telephone booths, and there's a blower, and there's money, real or pretend, that blows around, and it's a whirlwind, and you're supposed to catch the money. It's really hard to do that because you see everything. You're not focused on one thing. So what we want to do is to try to focus on God during this time of Advent. And then we want to, once we've stopped whatever our activity is, and we've pulled ourselves to our focus, perhaps your focus is reading the Bible. I'll tell you, there's a lot of joy in this book, is there not? When you spend time reading this, even if it's just for 15 minutes in the morning, doesn't it just settle you in the day in a way that a lot of other things don't? So whether it's focusing here or coming to church, or possibly listening to a worship song, focusing on God or Jesus will calm you down, and it will give you a little bit of the peace that you need to get through your busy time. And then celebrating in worship. Well, of course, focusing on the Bible is worship. Coming to church is worship. Praying is worship, right? Singing is worship. And enjoying the season. And enjoy, right? I think if you're able to stop and to focus and to celebrate, then you'll be paying more attention to the season and all the wonderful things that happen in it. And let's give an example of this and see if this brings us a little joy. If you were here last week for One Voice, raise your hand. Was it pretty much most of the people? Okay. Do you remember that song, the spiritual they did? Low down the chariot, let me ride. Remember that one? Remember when they sang that? Didn't you just feel a little bit of joy? It was uplifting because we had stopped what we were doing. We were focused. We were focused on them, but we were focused on the words. We were focused on the music. We were focused on God. And that felt like joy. It felt like joy. And we think, okay, well, how can we find those little snapshots of joy in our life during the Advent season? So I would say that spending time in the Word, spending time with people who can help you focus on the true meaning of the season, spending some time in prayer and asking for help is a good way to see joy. And for those of you, whether you're here or for those who aren't here, it can be so difficult to find joy during the Christmas season. And what's that song from the Grinch? Where are you, Christmas? Why can't I find you? So I would say to you that if you find yourself joyless at this time of year, Jesus is there and he's just waiting for you to come to him. He's waiting for you to say, I give up. I want to know what joy feels like. I want to experience the joy and the peace and the hope and the love that I hear about. Please come into my heart. Please help me to feel that joy. And please help me to walk in a life that honors you and will help me to feel that joy. So that's what I have to say about joy. I'd like to have us bow our heads in prayer for a moment. And I'd just like to say, Heavenly Father, thank you so much for Advent season. In a time when it is so difficult to focus and stop what we're doing for a variety of reasons, we ask for your help. We ask for the time, protection to be able to focus on your word, to focus on you, to speak with you, and to praise you, to celebrate, whether it's a song or just a moment with family. Please help us to feel your peace, feel your love, and help us to be able to radiate joy to others during this holiday, this Christmas season. And we ask this in Jesus' name. Amen.